Hello, everyone. You might have noticed that on Monday, we added a new format to the podcast. We decided to have a conversation with you, a devotional episode dedicated to the moon phase. And we're going to be doing those, but they're going to be moving around because the moon phase does move around a bit in the week. But we thought it would be fun for our Wednesday episodes to do an old school study, like you would do a Bible study back in the day. We're going to be delving deep into various topics in Christopaganism and Druidry every Wednesday on the podcast, and really giving you as much as we can to help you understand what it is that we're doing here. Now, it's important to understand that we're talking about a path, we're talking about a way. We are not telling you here is the correct 100% answer to all of these questions. We're going to be sharing with you our ideas and what we have discovered, inviting you into conversation so that we can see the great mystery together. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of a chance to prepare for that. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. You might remember the Christopagan Manifesto and A Dream of an Oak Church. Today, we're going to start talking about living the dream of the Oak Church as we walk together down Creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the Dogma.
Today, we are starting our series, Living the Dream of the Oak Church. And this is going to be paired with a post that will be going up over on CreationsPaths.com. So today, the introductory post went up over there that kind of explains what we're doing and where we're coming from. And today on the podcast, we're going to do a similar thing, talk about some of the themes that are in that post. And these are going to hopefully be companion pieces one to the other. We're not just going to read the post to you. We're going to have a conversation about the ideas that are in it and invite you all to comment and bring your discussion to these lively debates. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever the app is you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and we're currently doing our Jedi and Druidry series where we're comparing and contrasting modern day Druidry with the mystical arts practiced in a galaxy far, far away. And we've been having a lot of fun with that, and you don't want to miss anything. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, let's just get into it, shall we? Brian, where are we doing this?
Oh my. Well, a lot of it started a long time ago in a galaxy far. No, wait, sorry, wrong episode. It wasn't exactly a galaxy far away, but it was our journey. It's been a long journey, a lot of searching, a lot of questing. There was, for both of us, just this huge need. We had different upbringings as far as our Christian heritage background upbringings go, but there were, I guess you could say, traumas, there were scars, questions left, and we both started our spiritual journey looking for something better and running away from that which we knew was hurtful and could not be good, because it was hurtful, it was harmful, or at least problematic and not good. And I think a lot of people share that similar start. Both of us have spent a lot of time talking with like atheists and people who I would label as agnostic. They don't do a label, where they have past traumas, pains, hurts, sufferings that were inflicted by their starting faith that left them running away from all religion, presuming all of it to be hurtful. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be. Unfortunately, there are a lot of instances where it is. And a lot of that, as we learn through our journey, comes in from various imperial structures and grifters along the way that are either people just trying to self-profit and using faith as a means to get that profit, or the imperial structures trying to force compliance. And that is not a natural state for humanity in general. Forced compliance is bad.
We I think we can use the word self-profit in both spellings of that. They're trying to make money off of these ideas. They're also trying to be their own prophets. So
Mhm.
they're doing it in two different ways. Now, I approach this from a very Catholic perspective in that prior to getting in a relationship with Brian, I had contemplated whether or not I wanted to join the priesthood, and it gotten to a place where I was thinking maybe I should join a monastery, and had a few discussions with the Franciscan brothers in the Washington area, thinking maybe that would be a path to go down. And having done some study in monasticism, there's a phrase that's used in the Rule of Saint Benedict that has haunted me my entire spiritual life, and that is this idea. It's what he calls a gyrove, somebody who just flits around from practice to practice, with spirituality to spirituality, never putting down roots, because once it becomes too hard, they just flit off and find something new. And this is one of the types of monastics that he warns against. And I've always had this kind of fear inside of me. That's who I was. That maybe I wasn't sticking with it because it just was too hard, or did something I didn't like and I just went off to something else. And so for me, I wanted a foundation. I wanted a root, something to root into. And we've been working on this project for a very long time. Back in 2000, we wrote what was probably the first draft of this idea, and we called it the Emmanuelan Directives back then, where we wrote a manual of discipline where we went through and tried to figure out, what do we believe on these various things? How do we want to practice these various things? And tried to work it out, came to a place where we felt like, yes, this is something that we could practice. This is something we could live with. Even back then, it was highly influenced by not only our Christian beliefs, but from the works of Rabbi Shapiro. His book Minion was a huge influence on us and our spiritual development. In fact, I wrote to him at the time and was like, is it okay as a Christian to do this? And got a wonderful response from him, encouraging me to continue down this path, because I saw a lot of correlation between his ideas that he was talking about in there and what in the hesychasts and other mystical aspects of Christianity. We had also been practicing Buddhism for quite some time at that point and incorporated a lot of those kind of ideas in. So the bedrock of what we were building was starting to take shape in this time period.
This was also around the time period we got into creation spirituality as well.
I bought Minion and Original Blessing by Matthew Fox on the same day. We went down to the store.
Yeah.
I found both of those books. I was like, these supposed to be fascinating. And I bought both of them the same day, and was and Prayer by Matthew Fox, because I found two Matthew Fox books that seemed really interesting. This Original Blessing and Prayer. And I got a copy of Minion by Rabbi Shapiro. These all kind of became the heart of what we were developing, trying to figure out our own personal practice. We wrote it all down because I come from, again, that kind of Catholic perspective. Really made sense to me that you write it down, because in writing it down, you work out what you mean by things. And so that was very important to me to write it all down. By, I think it was 2005, we wrote what we called at the time our Seraphic Manifesto, which was an evolution of these ideas, bringing them even more together and cementing the practice that we wanted to do from that point on. That was the first time we actually shared these ideas with anyone else. We talked about them with some people. We gave away copies of that to some people. And that's where this podcast starts originating. This idea for this podcast and the Wisdom's Cry website kind of originated here in this time point. And then, of course, you get to the modern day. It's been about a year since I wrote the Christopagan Manifesto and the Dream of an Oak Church. We have been developing in all this time over the last, feels weird to say, 25 years, and really longer than that, because that's really the formative years where we were actively putting things together and trying to define what we're doing, which we had been doing informally before that, but trying to find a way to express this. And through all of it, we've been very clear that this isn't about finding the capital T truth, because that's where authoritarianism lies. That's where all of the problems we saw in the Christianity that we grew up with was rooted in this idea that they believed that they had the capital T truth. And that created an inflexibility that made it hard for them to accept various scientific revolutions that came about, and made it hard for them to understand reality as it was. A lot of church doctrine still presumes kings and has no understanding of democratic institutions at all. That's, as far as from a Catholic perspective, that really becomes official doctrine. This idea of democracy created to church doctrine in the First and Second Vatican Councils really start bringing that in. And that's the 60s, the 1960s. And this is something that we've been developing for a long time. And it really is something that is meant to be lived. If you go over and you read the companion document to here, part of it is this, not a creed, but a path. That's very important to our just understanding of how spirituality should work. We're not here to proclaim this is how everything has to be believed, because we are going to be going into theology in this series. We're going to be doing some deep dives into theology and mystagogy in this series. It's important to understand right from the onset here, theology is poetry. Rabbi Shapiro, in his more recent book, Judaism Without Tribalism, just makes this kind of offhand passage where he talks about, isn't it funny how theologians go out to discover the truth and they find out that the scriptures always agree with the preconceived notion that they had going into it. And that's the thing. We're not, as theologians, as people who are looking for theology, we are working with the stories. We are trying to discover things in the stories, but we're always going to be bringing in our preconceived notions and biases. And so it's very rare and near impossible for us to go into these texts and find something that isn't already in us in some way, shape, or form. Theology is a branch of poetics. Yes, it is a philosophy and can be treated as a philosophy, but it is not a science. We're not mining for truth. We are seeking to discover it, uncover it, and cloak it in words that we can use to talk to each other so that we have a shared vocabulary and vernacular.
That's also why I like the language of a path, because a path implies a journey. It's the process upon which you walk and travel, not a destination. It's not, like you said, it's not like the thing you mine or hold onto. It's about the experience of the entire process that one goes through that is changing.
To me, like my understanding of spirituality is very rooted in teaching storyism, where you are taught how to build a boat and how to cross the river. And so you spend your time in practice building the boat. And then once you have the boat built, you are navigating that boat across the river, only to arrive on the other shore and realize there was never a boat. There was never a river. I think that is a good framework for understanding what spirituality and religion are. They are the tools that help us, the spiritual technologies that we use and utilize to get us to a deeper understanding and relationship with the universe as it is, with the cosmos as it is. And in the end, we're all going to realize there is no boat, there is no river. These distinctions that we like to make are useful in helping us understand and navigate life until we can get to that point. But they're not real distinctions. When I talk about the Trinity, for example, because I am very strongly a Trinitarian, it's because, one, the idea of the Trinity is designed like a Zen koan, so it is something that is not perfectly understandable to help me remember that I will never have a full and complete understanding of God. That's handy. That's useful for me. Do I believe that there is a God? Yes. Do I believe that this God is necessarily a tripartite being? That is how I experience him. And that is how we experience the divine on a broader sense. We see this tripartite deity showing up in the triple goddess of many, many faiths. We see this tripartite deity showing up in the triple god of many, many faiths. This idea of this triplicate is important. There's something there. There is a there. I'm not on the other shore yet. I don't know what the there is, but I would never argue that if you do not believe in a tripartite God, then you are completely wrong. It's how I understand. It's how I practice. It is the root of my practice. And it helps me out because, again, in my practice, 3s and 9s are very, very important and powerful numbers. They have a lot of symbolic weight that they carry with them. So when I say the three that are one and the one that is three, that carries with it not just this understanding of the Trinity, but all of these other associations with it, and informs it so much more for me. This is a powerful tool. It is a spiritual technology. And you're going to be hearing that phrase a lot in this series, because that's what we're talking about. These are technologies. They have moving parts. Some parts will break over time. Some parts are added in because it's nifty to have, because they look cool, but they don't actually do much. And then that's the choice. Do you keep those with you or not? Do you carry them along? Do they stay part of the vehicle? Do we replace them? How do we do maintenance on these machines? That's all part of what we are looking at here. We're going to be approaching this from a very different perspective. It's part reconstruction, using a lot of the tools that you see in pagan reconstructionist movements, in that I think where Christianity went wrong was in the argument between Pelagius and Augustine. Augustine introduced the idea of original sin, and it changed the course of Christianity and changed the course of world history in very bad and terrible ways. What if we listened to Pelagius instead? What if we didn't have this idea of original sin? What would this church have looked like? But at the same time, I'm not going to throw out everything that came afterwards. This isn't about saying I'm going to pick this point and ignore everything after that, because St. Francis had some very interesting ideas and things to say. So did Aquinas. So did Dominic. Even Augustine had some beautiful things to say. As much as I disagree with him on some of his theological ideas, his book on charity and his other book on Christian doctrine are the root of how I do theology. You could say that I am Augustinian because of that, because he tells us in those books to seek out truth wherever you can find it, because truth is scattered all throughout the world. It is not reserved just for a chosen few, and that it is our job to find it. In his book on Christian doctrine, he very specifically says even the darkest, most foul heresy can have truth in it. And for someone like Augustine to say that really means a lot, because he believed people were literally going to a fiery burning hell for being a part of a heresy. But he said that there are even things that we can learn from them. And that generosity that we don't see in a lot of his work, that he doesn't practice what he preaches very well, but that idea is something we need to keep. So it's not about throwing Augustine out entirely. It's about doing what he himself preached, right? We're going to look at him and we're going to take what we want to go forward and leave behind what is not helpful. His misogyny is not helpful. His beliefs that people have no inherent self-control is problematic. And his idea of original sin is problematic. So we're going to leave those behind, but we're going to keep what's good. And that's the process that we do in our spiritual lives all the time and every day. You're trying to find what's good and bring it with you, and find what was wrong and leave it behind. That's what repentance is, by the way. That's what we're doing in that. We're finding, oh, that was wrong. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was right. Okay, then well, let's do that more. And that's really the mechanism we're going to be using for this. And some of it's going to be speculative. That's the nature of what we're doing. When I talk to you about my understanding of God, it's informed by a lot of Jewish mysticism and Christian mysticism, and a lot of Buddhist ideas and pagan ideas. And we're going to delve into that. Does it mean that it's right? I don't think that's a word that we can use. I think we need to get rid of that in the spiritual context. We're not here about right or wrong. We're here about coherence and blessing.
One of my favorite little things to do when if you find yourself asking, like, is this right in that sense? Like, next time you're walking somewhere or you have a fairly decent distance to travel and you're walking, start asking yourself, am I walking right? You will find yourself tripping and stumbling pretty quickly, because that's not the right question to ask, especially when you're on a journey. Are you on the right path? Are you heading in the right direction? That's an appropriate question. But am I walking right is the quickest way to make yourself fall down, or at least trip over yourself.
It's even easier to see when you ask somebody, stand comfortably.
Yes, stand comfortably. Yeah, it's
And in a
another one.
relaxed way. Well, what do I do with my hands? Are my hands in my pockets? Are they down by my sides? Should I have something in my hand? Because once you start thinking about how something should be laid out, it becomes all you can think about, and you will tend to overthink that focus. Like I said, we're here about coherence and blessing. Test all things and hold to that which is true. In other words, does it work? Is it actually functioning? Does the machine turn on and do what it's intended to do?
Yeah. That's why we're constantly saying our faith should
Yes.
also be practical. It needs to matter to us personally in our lives. Like if it's not mattering to us, then
Yeah,
it's
if faith
baffling.
is a thing that you do on Sunday and then you do something else throughout the rest of the week, I have never understood the point of that. I have never understood the point of that. It should be something that suffuses everything that you do. When we talk about our pagan practice, every morning we're saying our blessings and prayers. Every night we're giving our offerings and calling the angels and calling the spirits of earth, sea, and sky to look over us while we're sleeping. It is a part of us throughout the day, throughout everything we do. When I have decisions to make, I'll pull out my pendulum. Do I do exactly what it tells me to do? Am I following it as if it is giving me the divine word? No, but it does help me to make those decisions, because whether or not it's spirit speaking through me or whether it's my unconscious mind in the pendulum to swing at a yes, no answer or to a specific spot on a talking board, I'm getting a deeper answer that can inform the decision that I'm making.
Yeah, I love getting into the psychology of that, because this is why, like, sometimes when someone's struggling with a decision, I will pull out a coin and flip. Such an arbitrary thing, right? But what I'm watching for is not the result of the actual coin toss. I'm watching their reaction to the choice that was just made. Because oftentimes I have found that whether it lands heads and I'm supposed to do A or lands tails and I'm supposed to do B, once I go, okay, I'm doing A because the coin told me, and inwardly I'll go, no, I actually really want to do B. It helped me to recognize the decision that I actually wanted to make, or that someone else really wanted to make, because suddenly they're like, can we do best out of 3? It's no, you already gave me the answer. The answer was actually you wanted to do B, not A.
So what do I mean by coherence? Coherence means that they fit together in a certain kind of a way. Now, yes, this can be like puzzle pieces. Sometimes it is like puzzle pieces where they snap into place and you're like, I think I see the picture better. Other times it's like in a garden where there's no right or wrong answer about what flower should be put in a specific place. But this flower, as opposed to that flower, looks right, feels right, is somehow more pleasing, more acceptable. That's what we're doing. We're tending a garden of faith here as well. So we have centuries and millennia of lore, of legends, of stories. There are so many stories just in the Hebrew scriptures that it's not uncommon for me to mention a thing that happens and have somebody be like, wait, that's in the Bible? Oh, here, let me take you chapter and verse. Yeah, this happens here. Like, I think we have a lot to ask ourselves about how we deal with trolls based on Elisha and the bears, because I think Elisha overreacted. Other people think Elisha did the right thing. If you're not familiar with this story, Elisha crosses the river and a bunch of children, the Hebrew is very specific, children. The English sometimes says young men. The Hebrew is very specific, children, started calling him Baldy and making fun of him. So he summoned a whole bunch of she-bears from the woods to eat the children. Yes, this is in the scripture. This is in the Bible. You can read this story there, because no one reads the whole book. Very few people read the whole book. But there's a lot of interesting stories there that, yeah, I think he overreacted. But I think a lot of what we see in modern politics today is people summoning the bears and not actually trying to do the right thing. And we now have an analogy. We have a metaphor that we can use to dig into a situation and talk about it. So I'm not talking about throwing away the stories, but trying to find what is in them that still matters and resonates with us today. And it's not just these. Did you know that on the island of Ireland, they decided to write their own creation story? They did. There's actually 2 different versions of it. One of them is horrifically creepy because the severed tongue of an apostle is brought into the church and floats into the air and starts talking. Because, okay, that's a choice. That's in a tractate called The Everlasting Tongue, I believe is the name of it, or The Ever Living Tongue. But that is a choice. There's another version of the story that doesn't have the weird disembodied floating tongue in it, and I'm better with that one. But they retold the story of creation in their own terms. This happened all around the world, by the way, because people, once upon a time, felt an ownership over the stories. See, this is the thing that the Imperial Church took from us that we're trying to bring back. These stories used to be living in the community. where storytellers felt like they could tell a different version. They could tell a better version. This is preserved in the Jewish practice of Midrash, where you are asked to look at the story and tell a story in the gaps. You're not trying to figure out what actually happened. You're trying to write a story using the symbols and the metaphors and the meaning that's there to dig in. You're searching for a deeper truth within it. And there are beautiful stories about this that come out from this. And it's a practice that anyone can do. And we're trying to reclaim that ability to look at these stories and not just tell stories about Jesus that are in the Gospels, tell stories about Jesus now. Tell stories about the apostles that aren't just in the Gospels. Tell stories now. Have ownership over the story. Have ownership in how the story affects us and builds our communities the way that they are. And that's a lot of what we're doing with the Oak Church. Now, I hope you come along for this ride. You've actually heard a lot of this before if you've been listening to the podcast. If you want to cheat, we did an entire series on the Dream of an Oak Church when I first wrote it and went through each and every part of it. You can find on the podcast. You can also go over to wisdomscry.com and read the entire Dream of an Oak Church, the original post over there, and all of its constituent parts and the triads that went along with it and everything. This time through, we're not going to be doing that kind of a reading. We're going in and we're doing an actual reconstruction of the theology, the practice. What does it actually mean to be this living, breathing, Christopagan, Druidic church? What does that mean? What does it look like? How does that impact our theology and our practice? And I hope you come along for the ride. I'm very excited about this. This project has been in the going for a while. I think we have something close to 75,000 words already written on this. It's a lot. Actually, I can look right now. I have the document open. I don't have to guess. I could just look over and see. We have 77,988 words in the current draft. So we're going to have topics that we can talk about for a while, but that's why we're starting this now. We've been working this out and we've gotten to a point where we feel like we have something that is ready to start being shared, that is ready to have this level of conversation with a wider community, because that is what we were trying to do here. It is conversation.
And that's the fun thing, because we already have up on CreationSpirituality.com the Start Here tab, which is the starting bit when we shared the initial vision last year. But this is definitely okay, so you've started here, now here's next step.
And don't worry, if you're one of those completionist types and you're really wanting to get into all this, you have time. It's actually going to be quite a while before we get to the topics that are addressed there, because the Dream of an Oak Church kind of glosses over some of these pesky initial ideas such as God, Jesus, and the more Christopagan side of things, and gets really into the Druidry part of things. And we're actually starting with that Christopagan idea first. What does that mean? What does that look like? How is that reshaping everything that follows? And so it's going to be a while before we get down to those topics again. So you don't have to feel pressured to go and read that and listen to that ahead of time. You have time to get there on your own. All right. I can't wait to hear what you think about this. We're very excited for this project. We have been asked to make sure that we announce big projects like this before we get into it. So next week, we are going to be starting with our reworking, because yes, it's bigger now, our reworking of the Christopagan Manifesto. We're going to be going through the parts of it. That's probably going to end up being multiple posts on CreationsPaths.com and multiple episodes of this podcast. You can go and reread the Christopagan Manifesto if you haven't already. It's actually pinned to the homepage of CreationsPaths.com. So you can go and see it there. If you want to get a jump on this, we have expanded thereupon to really clarify what we mean by everything that's in it. So that's going to be our next probably 3-4 weeks as we are heading forward in this. I hope you come along for the ride. Let us know what you think. If you're listening to us on Spotify, YouTube, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't let us know. So You can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. Then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a comment there, and we will see it and be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us at Patreon and Ko-fi. I am seated with it on both. You can also support us using the Cash App, hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. You really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our heads, and food on our table. If we've said anything that's helped you out, please share it with others, because that helps us out more than. And as we're heading out, as we like to say a little bit of a prayer, Blessed Mother Mary, Queen of all hearts, Queen of the angels, divine co-redemptrix with Christ, help us as we walk this path to learn to see the truth of this world through fresh and new eyes, and learn to live it more fully in your grace and wisdom. Amen.
Amen.